Welcome or welcome back to my channel, Stitch and Style by me, Nadia, and today I have a bumper makes vlog for you. So I have a lot of things I would like to share with you today, and one of those is this Freya top that I've made. The Freya top is from the stretch book by Tilly and the Buttons, and it's one of my favourite tops, and I'm sure you've heard a lot of people talking about this because it seems to be a firm favourite with a lot of people in the sewing community. It isn't a very size inclusive pattern. It goes up to a Tilly and the Buttons size 8, which is bust 44, waist 38 and hip 47. Here are the line drawings, and it's just got this little mock turtleneck. If you're looking for a more size inclusive pattern, you could try the Nico top by True Bias. I've seen that recommended elsewhere for similar kind of design. I've not tried that top, but I've seen it comes recommended. Now, I made it in this fabric, and I'm just going to bring it close so you can see the texture. There you go. So it's not a flat black texture. It kind of looks a bit more charcoal grey in real life. I don't think it's really showing that up on the camera. And you can see it's got a brushed texture to it. This is a viscose jersey, and it's got quite a bit of stretch 4 ways, and it's got a little bit more stretch on the cross grain and a little bit less on the grain line, but lovely and stretchy with good recovery. I think it's 95% viscose and 5% elastane. I got this from First for Fabrics when I went during my Vlogmas trip, and it's a beautiful cosy fabric. It's not a very drapey fabric like a normal viscose is. Because of the brushed texture, it gives it a little bit more body and a little bit less drape, but it makes it so cosy. And I'll just give you a little twirl in it. It says from the back and the front. So as you can see, it's quite slim fitting, and I like to wear it all the time. I'll wear it underneath things, and yeah, on its own as well. It's just one of my go-to tops. I also actually made another Freya top in this beautiful fabric. Now the top itself has been worn this week, and so it's just in the wash, so I can't show you the top here, but I'll insert some pictures of how I wore it the other day. I was really happy with this outfit. I even wore some coloured tights, which is a little bit daring, I will say, for me. So these tights I got from Tesco's in the sale after the end of last winter, and yeah, I pulled them out for the first time and thought, oh, I'm going to wear my burgundy coloured tights, and I think it goes really well with the purples in the top. Now, I got this fabric last year from Sherwood's Fabrics, and if I remember rightly, it might be a Liberty fabric. Now, it's an absolutely beautiful fabric. I absolutely love the colours in it. I think I might just have a scrap piece down here, so I'll just get it. So here's a scrap piece, and it's got these glitter balls on it, and these all purples, pinks, and like an olive green and like a dark burgundy and white colours in it, and I just absolutely love these colours. I think they're absolutely beautiful, and I didn't have much of this fabric. I got it as a remnant piece, so I think I had maybe about 1.5 meters of this fabric, so all I really could cut out of it was one top, so I got the Freya top out of it. Now I do have quite a bit left, scraps piece, and hopefully I'll get round this year to making up some knickers. So I think, yeah, to have a matching pair of knickers would be great. It's got quite a bit of stretch on the cross grain, but it's got no stretch whatsoever on the straight of grain. And I am so happy with how that Freya top turned out. I'm absolutely in love with it. So those are two of my makes. Now you saw on the bottom half a little glimpse of a skirt that I'm wearing, and this is the Sabina skirt by the Little Pomegranate, and it's the second Sabina skirt that I've made. Now I can't remember all of the details of the patterns that I've already made and what size I cut and everything, so if you want more details about that, please see my previous vlogs. The previous Sabina skirt that I cut out was in a polyester fabric, and it was just really intended. It was a remnant piece actually, I managed to cut it out of. That was kind of just a practice, and obviously a polyester is not always the nicest to wear, especially in the summer, so I did want a more floaty kind of one in a viscose material, and I chose this viscose, which has got these little leopard print on it. And this fabric, I think it might either be from Minerva or from Rainbow Fabrics. I can't remember. It's been in my fabric collection for quite a while. Now the last Sabina skirt I made, I lengthened it, but I'd already cut out the main skirt panel. So what I had to do was lengthen the ruffle. And this time I wanted to lengthen the skirt panel rather than the ruffle, and I remembered to do it. So I think I've altered my pattern piece for this just to extend it, and it falls, I think, maybe just above maxi length. It doesn't go right down to the floor or to my ankle, it just sits a little bit above. I love this skirt pattern. Now when I talked about this last time, I got some feedback from people who said that they found the instructions, particularly around the pocket bag, a little bit tricky to understand, even though they were quite experienced sewers. And I also got some feedback that there weren't a lot of notches. I could only talk from my personal experience, but I did want to just mention that it might not be for complete beginners, the pattern, because of that feedback that I received. So please bear that in mind. If people would find it useful for me to show how to do the pocket bags on it, I'm really happy to do a little tutorial video. So yeah, let me know if you would find that useful. I actually found the most tricky part for me is probably the waistband, but I always know that waistbands are going to be my nemesis, so I've kind of learned how to kind of approach them myself, so I do make it a little bit easier for myself. I actually watched a tutorial by Karina, who is lifting pins and needles on, and she wasn't talking about waistbands, she was talking about collars. And actually, if I'd seen that before I attempted to do my first collar, I think I would have found it much easier. So I would recommend Karina for tutorials. Anyway, what she was saying was it's easier to do things in the reverse, and I might try that with waistbands next time. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Karina, because I've only just recently found her channel and I found that it was really, really useful. I'm sure you probably all watch her. I have stitched down the waistband. You can't really see, but I've got two lines of stitching, one here and one here, just to keep the elastic neat and in place. So that was my Sabina skirt. It was actually the second garment that I cut out of this fabric. So I'll show you now the other garment that I made out of this same fabric. So this was the first garment that I made out of this material, this leopard print viscose material, and it's the I Am Cassiope by I Am Patterns. I think making this dress was a big success in terms of what I learnt from it about my style, but the actual finished garment is one that I probably won't return to, and there are a couple of reasons for that. So I will show you the line drawing of it, and it's got, as you can see, a raglan sleeve and a gathered waist, and it's quite a wide opening and quite relaxed fit around the bust, and you can see it's got a little bit of a bat wing to it. I think I have the same feelings about this as I did the Wilder gown. So I absolutely love oversized look, and I am really drawn to it. I love it on other people, and it's something that I'm drawn to myself to pick up and buy, and also sometimes to wear, but I tend not to actually feel that comfortable when I'm actually wearing it. And after I'd made up the dress, I decided I didn't really want to wear it as it was, so I've actually cut this off into a top, and I'm still a little bit unsure about whether the top actually works for me. So I will put some pictures up. I haven't got any of it as a dress. I wasn't feeling well enough to photograph it before I decided to change it to a top. One of the main reasons is the neckline. I find it a little bit too wide and a little bit too exposing for me, and it doesn't seem to sit right. You know, if you move it, sometimes I move it a bit forward and then sometimes I'll move it a bit back, and it just never seems to sit properly on me. I don't know whether that's something to do with the shape. I can understand why people love this pattern. I think it looks absolutely fabulous on the packet and everything, and all the photos that I've seen of it. That's why I was really keen to sew this up, but I've just found on me, I don't know whether I've done maybe the top a little bit too big. Let me think about what size I did. I made the size 42. I don't know whether actually a size, I should have really sized down on this pattern, and I don't know if that's usual for other people who've made this dress. Maybe looking at the garment, finished garment measurements, the bust is a size 43.25 for a 42, so that is 5.25 inches of ease around the bust. So I will just stand up and show you this top. So here's the top. Now you can see it kind of falls down, it comes up at the front and falls down at the sides. It is straight compared to the waistline, but obviously with the raglan sleeves it means when you put your arms down it kind of falls down to the side. I don't know whether I mind that or whether it probably needs to curve up at the sides, so it looks straight when I've got my arms down. So there's the top. I think I've learned that while I like an oversized top, I don't know whether an oversized dress is for me. Now, I hope that makes sense, and maybe some people can relate to that. But I really enjoyed the process of making this dress, and I know other people have recommended it to me, so if you feel like this is your style, then I would say definitely go for it. I loved the process of it, I think it was well drafted and the instructions were good. I think if it was my style and I did want to make it again, I think I would do something about this neckline and just bring this in a little bit. So it sat a little bit nicer. I might also consider sizing down to a size 40 next time. So those are some of my thoughts on the pattern. Now you will have seen a little glimpse of the next pattern that I want to show you, and that's the Ava skirt by Sew Over It. And for those of you who watched my Vlogmas, you'll know that I was having a little bit of an issue with the Ava skirt. I cut it out a little bit too small, and when I remeasured myself I had changed shape slightly, so my measurements had gone slightly up, but because this is a fitted skirt you really needed to get the measurements right, and I added some back on to the pattern pieces and recut out the skirt, and I have actually finished a skirt that fits absolutely perfectly, and I'm really happy with it. Now I did have some issues with the waistband and covering the zip pull, but I've managed to sort those out, and I wore it for work, this Ava skirt. Now I'll put up some pictures of when I wore it in the office. I also in the office just took a little bit of a close-up of the back so you can see how it looks. Now this is not 100% perfect. I think ideally I'd have a little bit more fabric either side to cover the zip pull a little bit more, but it's not an invisible zip, so some visibility of it is absolutely fine. And I did actually extend the waistband a little bit. I don't think as it's drafted it has as much overlap, so I extended it a little bit, and I know that I'm going to get lots of wear out of this in the winter. So this is just a plain, like I think just craft fabric, and it creases quite easily. It's not the nicest quality, and the lining on it is a Cupro lining that's absolutely beautiful. So I've got a really nice lining fabric and the outer fabric is just not very nice. So I haven't already got some, but what I would like to do is to buy some nice wool suiting fabric and make myself a lovely quality, lovely fitting skirt for work that I can wear to the office. And I've even got plans to try and make a matching waistcoat and a matching blazer, and maybe even a pair of trousers in the same fabric. So this Ava skirt is the first lined skirt that I've ever made, and I had to just figure out the lining myself. I just copied the skirt front and back pieces and sewed it as the same as the outer fabric, and then just joined it into the waistband. So that's my Ava skirt. Now, what else have I got to show you? Oh, I'll put on my new dress next, and this is a really exciting make. Here is my next dress, and this is the Vienne dress by Size Me Sewing. And this was totally inspired by Tamlin's dress, Sewn on the Tyne. I'm sure you've all watched her vlogs, they're really inspiring, and she made one of these dresses and wore it to one of the shows. Anyway, I saw her outfit, she was wearing it with some DMs, and I love my DMs too, and I thought, yes, I really want to try this dress. Now, I just made the I Am Cassiope dress and felt like it wasn't really my style, and seeing this dress, because it has an elasticated waist, so I thought, yes, this is going to suit my style a little bit more, and I absolutely love this dress. So it's a midi dress. Now I have lengthened it a little bit. They suggest if you lengthen the tier at the top, you do the same by the tier at the bottom. lengthen it by the same amount just to keep the proportions of the dress. So I followed that guidance and I lengthened each piece by the same amount, and that was by 4 centimetres. I also lengthened the bodice by 4 centimetres, so in total I lengthened the dress 4, 8, 12 centimetres, which is nearly 5 inches. I am 5'8½", so I couldn't actually see what height this was drafted for, but I wanted to make sure it was long enough. It's similar to the length of my Sabina skirt, just above maxi. Now I did get some pictures of this which I'll insert as I'm talking, and I don't actually think, looking back at the pictures, that the pictures really do the dress much justice. I think it actually looks a lot nicer in real life. Maybe it was my styling of the dress as well. I think I would wear this with a belt, and I've just put a belt on now to show you. Just stand up and give you a little look at it. And I did do a slight sway back adjustment, which is a normal adjustment for me. And it's in this lovely fabric, which is, it's either a navy or a black, I can't really tell, it's probably navy actually, and this cobalt blue. And this fabric is a viscose, and it feels a little bit crepe. I think it might be viscose crepe, because it did press well, so I don't think it's polyester. And this fabric was from Rainbow Fabrics. In terms of sizing, I went for the circle size. Now, they don't have the normal sizes, they have a symbol for each size, and that's to encourage you to look at the measurements and to choose based on the measurements rather than a numerical size. And the circle size has bust 38, waist 30 and hips 41. So I'm slightly under for the bust, and I'm exactly the same on the waist, maybe just a little bit over, and hips I'm a little bit over. But I thought the hip measurement doesn't matter too much, it's more important to get the fit right at the top. So it tells you to choose your size based on your bust and your hip measurement. But I think I looked at the finished garment measurements and it seemed okay for the hip for me. So there is quite a bit of gathering with this dress, but that's absolutely perfect for me. I don't mind gathering, it's actually something that I really enjoy doing, and I was really happy with how even my gathers were. On the bottom of the dress there's an elasticated cuff, and I lengthened this arm piece because sometimes if it's supposed to fall here, it can fall a little bit too high on me, and I just wanted to make sure it fell below my elbow, so I lengthened that a bit. So in terms of fitting as well, the thing that I noticed when I looked back at the pictures was in some poses I had some drag marks here, and so I don't know whether just from here to here I might need just a tiny little bit more room. That's possibly because I've gone off the full bust measurement but not taken into account the upper bust measurement for this pattern, because I just made the bodice as is. I perhaps needed to go for the size up on the bodice but then do a small bust adjustment instead of just cutting out for my full bust size. I think I've got an A.5 cup at the moment, so when you've got like smaller than a B cup, that is a risk that you take, that you don't have quite enough room for your shoulders when you make according to your full bust size. So that is something that I'll probably look at for next time. It doesn't feel uncomfortable, but when I look back at the pictures I could see definite drag marks there. There's no fiddly fastenings, the only thing you have is a little ribbon that you sew into the bias binding and a little button. And I love the bias bound finish, that is my preferred finish, rather than doing a facing, so that's a thumbs up from me as well. So I love the finished garment, I love everything about this pattern, but there are a couple of things that I noticed when sewing. So there are quite a few typos in the instructions, and one of them is critical to the elastic for your waist. Now, I think if I was a little bit sharper at the time, I would have thought about it before I put the elastic in. Unfortunately, I didn't. Now, it says for you to take your waist measurement and then add 5 centimetres onto your waist measurement for the length of the elastic. Now, I don't really think that it computed at the time. Well, it didn't, because I made it up with 5 centimetres bigger than my waist. And obviously the elastic just didn't come in at the waist, so I had to take the elastic out. Now, suggested in the pattern is a 12mm elastic. I only had that width of elastic in white, and I didn't want to put white elastic into this dress. I wanted to use a black elastic, and the only elastic that I had was half that width. So I was using a slimmer elastic than suggested in the pattern, and I think that also made a big difference to the length of elastic that I needed to use, because I took out the first elastic that I'd put in, I took off 5 centimetres, put that in, and I really should have measured how I wanted it before I bothered sewing that in, because it still was a little bit too loose for me. So I had to take that out, and I ended up taking off another 6 centimetres. So I actually reduced so it was actually my waist minus 11 centimetres that I ended up using, and still I probably could have done with it a little bit tighter. I haven't taken it out again and done it, and I think that's one of the reasons why I think I would prefer to wear a belt with it. Now, I did find the instructions a little bit sparse in places, but they do have a video where they show you what they mean, and I really liked learning about the technique of putting in the elastic in the waistband, because I can use this technique again for other makes, and I thought it was just so simple and it's so effective, and you can't see any stitching from the outside of the dress, which is just absolutely perfect. The pockets are great as well. They sit towards the front, which I really prefer. The only thing is that it can make it a little bit bulky on some of the seams, because you've got 4 layers of the fabric joining all at once. So that is something to be mindful of if you choose a bit of more of a heavier fabric. I would really suggest to go with a more lightweight fabric for this make. And the instructions don't include when to finish your seams. And the pattern designer explains why they've done it that way, and I completely understand that, but I do like my handheld in terms of telling me when to seam finish. So that's something, I think that's just my own preference. Oh, the other thing to mention about the pattern and the instructions is the armhole sleeve. Now, normally on an armhole like this, you'll have gathering stitches in the sleeve piece, but in this pattern the designer doesn't do it like that, so instead you have to kind of ease it in, and it was my first time ever using that construction method, and I'd watched the video and that was really helpful in kind of showing you how. I don't know if I really got my head around exactly what I was doing, but actually when I did it, it turned out perfect, and there were no puckers in either sleeve, and I didn't have to get the unpicker out at all for the sleeve pieces, which considering I wasn't really knowing what I was doing, I actually thought that was a great achievement. Although I do think in future I will stick to the gathering method, and I don't know if I make this again whether I'd just put a few gathering stitches along the sleeve head, just because I'm used to that method. I'm just going to put my light on. I've actually ordered some black elastic in the right width to come, and that's come today, so I'm ready to make my next Vienne dress, and I'm definitely going to make another. As I say, I think I'm just going to have to maybe tweak the bodice pattern, but that's absolutely fine, and this is ideally why we should do a practice run of the garment. I'm just going to pop on my next make. If you're still with me, thank you. It's going to be a long video. So I decided to make this little black vest, and this is partly self-drafted. I haven't got any photos of this, so I'll just show you. Hopefully you can see that. I've not got very good lighting in here actually. Hopefully that's a little bit better. The belt is on my natural waist, and you can just see the belt. So perhaps it's just above my natural waist here. So I thought it's made in this sweatshirting. It's got a fleecy back and it's cosy colours, so it's got these lovely little flecks in, and it's a black background. And I made a couple of garments in this black sweatshirting fabric. This is the third garment I've made. And I've still got some more. I'm hoping to make a cardigan as my final piece, and that'll be all used up. So what I decided I wanted was something to throw over some of my me-made garments that have got big sleeves, just to add a little bit of warmth. So what I did was I put on a jumper, and I kind of decided where I wanted it to come in terms of my neck, where I wanted it to sit on my shoulders, what length I wanted it, and how deep I wanted the armholes. Now for a puffy sleeve I wanted the armholes to sit quite low. So after I put pins in my jumper just to show exactly kind of where I wanted it to start and stop and everything, then I put a big piece of brown paper over it, and then I self-drafted a pattern just in between the pins, and yeah, that's what I used as my pattern piece. And I used the same pattern piece for the front and back. I just altered the neck shape so it's a bit higher at the back. Then I measured the neckline and I took a little bit off and added seam allowance. I think you take off between 10 and 15% for the width of your neckband. So I self-drafted a neckband, and I've got quite a bit of experience of putting in a neckband, so I was kind of able to judge it, and I might have had to have done 2 attempts at it, I'm not sure. But the neckband is sitting nice and flat, and I've got just a zigzag top stitch on it, and then I did the same calculation for an arm band to go around the arm hole, and I've also, as you can see, top stitched that with a zigzag stitch. Let me see if I can get it in the light. There you go. And I'm absolutely delighted with how this has come out. And I'd like to make another one that's a little bit more close fitting. So I'll have to perhaps do a little bit of a redraft for that one. I want it also a little bit more close fitting at the armhole, maybe to come in a little bit more and to not have as much space, and to be close fitting on the body. So I might do a new pattern for that one, self-drafted pattern, and I'm really getting into this self-drafted pattern thing. It's really exciting that you can just feel like I can do exactly what I want. So actually that brings me to another little tweak that I did. So when I was trying on the jumper that I made using the Tyra T pattern from Just Patterns, I felt it was a little bit long, so I've taken quite a few centimetres off that and re-hemmed it. So I'll just show you that on now. Felt like it was hitting at the wrong place. I might have a little bit of footage of the before actually, so you can see what I mean. But now I've shortened it so it's kind of hitting just about my natural waist, and I think that just suits my shape a little bit more with the length it is now. So that's a tweak I made. So I took off the label and then reattached the label that I had on that. I'm just going to go to the last alteration I made. I am rushing through it now. I think this has taken forever. It's actually gone dark outside now. Had a lot of changes of clothing. This is the last thing I've got to show you. I made this Friday Pattern Company Elysian bodysuit. I'd raised the neckline at the front, and then I was struggling to get my arms into the finished bodysuit, and I had planned on maybe putting some poppers in the bottom. Anyway, I tried that. I didn't follow any instructions, so I was kind of like just making it up as I went along, which probably wasn't the best idea, and it turned out horribly. Let's just put it like that. And one of the main problems is that the poppers were sat too far back for me to properly reach and to do the poppers up. Then the poppers weren't like staying closed, they just kept popping open. So I thought, oh no, this has gone totally wrong. So what I ended up doing was just making it into a top. So I've cut it off here. Now this was just above the leg openings, and then I've hemmed it. And I was worried that it was going to keep riding up, actually, but it doesn't. And I'm really happy with it as just a top rather than a bodysuit. And it does save you the hassle of having to, when you go to the toilet. It's not baggy at all, so yeah, it doesn't ride up. I would actually feel like that could be a little bit longer to make it comfortable and to like tuck in comfortably without risk of it popping out all the time. But yeah, I'm really happy with this top now. So that is everything for today. I hope you've enjoyed seeing my recent makes. I'm sorry this has been a little bit of a long one. Hopefully you've made it to the end, and if you have, thank you so much. I really appreciate everybody who takes the time to watch my channel and to give me a like and a subscribe and to leave me a comment. All of your comments mean so much to me, and I will see you next time. Bye!